All right, I want to do a quick review of perfect squares before you do your next assignment, just to make sure you have it. So we're going to review two aspects, multiplying them out, which is also unfactoring them, and then we're going to review factoring. So to multiply out a perfect square, first what you do is you have to take it and expand it. So I'm going to write it in expanded form. Remember, squared means times itself. So a plus 4 squared means a plus 4 times a plus 4. Those are exactly the same. So expand first. Then you're going to FOIL. So I have first a squared, outer 4a, inner 4a, last 16. Then you want to add your like terms. So a squared plus 8a plus 16. All right, one more. So first, expand it, 5c minus 2 times 5c minus 2. Expand. Notice that it's not plus and a minus. These are exactly the same. If one's minus, the other one's minus. If one's plus, the other one's plus. Okay, FOIL. And when you FOIL, I would keep change. Okay, so first, 25c squared. Outer is negative 2 times 5c, negative 10c. Inner, negative 2 times 5c, negative 10c. Last, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Add the like terms. 25c squared plus negative 20c plus 4. Now let's go to factoring. And factoring is going from a trinomial like this on the right side, see how it has 3 terms, to the parenthesis piece like on the left. Let's do t squared minus 4t plus 4. Now, to factor a perfect square, you want to first check to see that it is a perfect square. The test has 2 parts. You want to check the 2 end terms to make sure they're squares. That means they have a square root. Well, 4 has a square root of 2. So put it in a parenthesis squared. That means that's a perfect square. T squared has a square root of t. Put it in a parenthesis squared. So the ends are both squares. Now we need to check the middle term. And what you do is the middle term should be 2 times t, multiply these 2 pieces in the parenthesis, 2t doubled. That means 2t times 2. Well, it should be 4t and it is, so it checks out. That means, yes, this is a perfect square. It's a perfect square. That means you can factor it with 1 parenthesis squared, and what goes inside is this inner piece here, right, the square root of the first term, this first sign, this piece in this parenthesis, the square root of the last term. That's factored. This is factored. Okay, number 2. 64u squared plus 72uv plus 81v squared. All right, let's test it. These 2 ends need to be perfect squares. Well, 81v squared has a square root. It would be 9, because the square root of 81 is 9. The square root of v squared is v. So 9v is the square root of 81v squared. See? 9v times itself will give you 81v squared. Put it in a parenthesis with a little square. Find the square root of this piece. Make sure it has one. 8u is the square root of the first term. Put it in a parentheses square. Now let's check, so those two are squares. Let's check this middle term now. Multiply 8u times 9v. You get 72 uv, double that. Well, 72 uv doubled can't be 72 uv. 72 uv doubled is like 144 uv. This needs to be 144 uv, and it's not. So the middle term doesn't check. It means it's not a perfect square. And so you can't factor it, so you'd say prime. Assuming there's no GCF, and there's not. Okay, 3. We'll do 2 more quick ones. 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. All right, let's test the ends. That has a square root. The first term has a square root. Put it in a parenthesis, right? So it's the inner part that's the square root. Right? Now let's check the middle term. So 2x times 5 is 10x. Double, now you double that. This times this doubled should be that middle term. 2x times 5 is 10x. 10x times 2 is 20x, so it checks out. Yes, it's a perfect square. So we can factor it with 1 parenthesis squared. 2x goes in the first part. Keep this sign. If that's a minus, this is a minus. 5 is the second part. And those are the factors. Okay, one last one. All right, x squared plus 6x plus 9. Okay, let's test the ends. 9 has a square root, 3. X squared has a square root, x. 3x doubled is 6x. So the middle term checks. That means it's a perfect square. And I'm gonna put this x goes here, the first sign here, 3 goes here, and put a squared on the outside. And that's it.